You might recall that last week we talked about community. We talked about Jesus as the shepherd who gathers us together and guides us, and I challenged all of us to think about the ways that we can be community for and with one another, and the ways that we take care of each other, and the ways we take care of our neighbors and our neighborhoods. And as I considered our theme for today, compassion, I kept thinking that this should have been the first theme, that then we could have built community on that, because community really does begin with compassion toward others. And also because a little bit later in the Gospel of John, after what Rebecca read for us this morning, Jesus says, "I am the vine, you are the branches," indicating that as followers of Jesus, as members of his body, we inherit this task that we talked about last week. We are called to do our part as shepherds, to care for each other and for the wider neighborhoods around us. This is part of the abundant life that Jesus has in mind, not only to receive care, but also to give care, to receive compassion, and also to be compassionate. The word compassion itself comes from two Latin roots. Passio means suffering, and com, with. Translated then, compassion is to suffer with. According to Amy Jill Levine, showing compassion is a reaction. It's a reaction that is a response to a presumed loss or death, and it signals a drive to restore wholeness. So let's get right to the meat of the parable that Jesus tells in Luke with another question. How might we restore wholeness to one another and to our neighbors? I would argue that performing acts of kindness is the beginning of compassion. And so restoring wholeness begins with acts of kindness. We recognize that what the Samaritan did in Jesus' parable is more than kindness, but genuine compassion has to come from somewhere, right? According to an article I read from CNN this week, practicing doing acts of kindness over and over and over again turns kindness into a sort of habit. And then kindness becomes part of who we are. Did you know? I can send you the link to this article if you're interested in reading it for yourself, but did you know that performing acts of kindness actually releases all of those feel-good chemicals in your brain, and it even has a positive impact on your physical health? When we act kindly, our brains release oxytocin, commonly known as the love hormone. It's used to promote social connection with other people. And when oxytocin is released in the brain, it reduces the production of cortisol, which is the stress hormone, which in turn releases nitric oxide, dilating your blood vessels and reducing blood pressure. Right? Yay! According to Dr. Catherine Franzen, an associate professor of psychology at Longwood University in Virginia, being kind also boosts production of serotonin, a neurotransmitter involved in mood, including happiness, releases dopamine, a brain chemical in charge of reward and pleasure, and secretes endorphins, promoting pleasure and pain relief. Right? Knowing all of this, one could argue that the Samaritan saving the man on the side of the road did it for his own selfish benefit, right? This is going to make me feel great. And sure, helping someone probably made him feel good. But I believe acts of kindness for this person, for this Samaritan that Jesus tells a story about, were a habit. Because it was the Samaritan's instinct to help someone in need, to show compassion, which makes me think that he had been doing acts of kindness for others over and over again for a long time. On average, according to a study on behavioral psychology, it takes 66 days before a new behavior becomes automatic. On average, some people less and some people more. In a standard reading of this parable that we know as the parable of the Good Samaritan, we read ourselves as this person, the good character, right? We, good individuals, help them, the sick, the poor, the immigrant, the robbed and beaten, left for dead in a ditch. But the reality of it is, we have prejudices against helping those and against receiving help from those who are different from us, who believe differently than we do, who have a different theology or political affiliation. Debbie Thomas, theologian and commentator, reminds us that the Samaritan in this parable was the other, the alien, the heretic, the object of fear, condescension, disgust, judgment. Though we are inclined to love the Good Samaritan, Jesus' choice to make him good, to make him, of all people, the hero of the story, was nothing less than scandalous to the original listener's ears. Debbie Thomas asks, is there anything we can do in our 21st century lives to recover the scandal at the heart of this parable? Think about it this way. Who is the last person on earth you would ever want to deem the good guy? Yeah, I see it in some of your faces. You know who that person is in your life. The last person you'd ever want to ask for a favor, much less owe your life to them. The person whom you secretly would hope to convert or fix or impress or control or save, but never ever need. When you're lying bloody in a ditch, what matters is not whose help you'd prefer, whose way of practicing Christianity or religion you like best, whose politics you agree with. What matters is whether or not anyone will stop to show you mercy before you die. It is not the Samaritan's theology or political affiliation or training that makes him good. It is rather what he does and how he treats the one who is in need of help. The Samaritan did not ask the man beaten on the side of the road why he was on the side of the road. The Samaritan did not offer prayers or sermons or qualifiers for the help that was given. The Samaritan rescued, healed, and protected the victim. The Samaritan is who Jesus told us to be. Who is my neighbor? The lawyer asked. Your neighbor is the one who scandalizes you with compassion, Jesus answered. Your neighbor is the one who upends all of your entrenched categories and shocks you with a fresh face for God. Your neighbor is the one who mercifully steps over the ancient, bloodied line separating us from them and teaches you the real meaning of good. Last night, I attended the Kansas City Women's Chorus concert. And one of the pieces that they performed was Feed the Birds from the popular Disney movie Mary Poppins. I won't try to sing it for you because I have a little sinus thing going on. Come feed the birds, show them you care, and you'll be glad if you do. This has been sticking with me because in a way, we are being called to feed the birds. A small act of kindness, of compassion such as this can go a long way, can have ripple effects. What birds will you feed this week? What small act of kindness can you do to put more compassion into the world? As we go out and political affiliations and all other things that divide us, may we open ourselves to receive compassion from others, as well as being compassionate to those around us. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. I would argue that what Jesus really said was, I came that all may have life and have it abundantly. The world needs more community and more compassion, and we are invited to help make it so. Let us make it so. Amen.